What if one new GET package could replace hundreds of lines of process logic forever? Think about the last time you had to wire up a multi-step approval workflow from scratch. The state machines, the conditional transitions, the database flags, the email triggers. You probably spent days on plumbing code that had nothing to do with your actual business logic. There is a better way, and it fits inside your existing ASP.NET Core app without spinning up a single extra server. In this episode, we are kicking off a brand new series on OptimaJet WorkflowEngine in .NET 8. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what this library is, why it exists, and whether it belongs in your next project. So let's start at the foundation. OptimaJet WorkflowEngine is an embeddable .NET library. And that word embeddable is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. This is not a standalone BPM server. It is not a separate microservice you have to deploy, maintain, and secure. It is a NuGet package that lives directly inside your ASP.NET Core application, running in the same process, sharing your dependency injection container, your configuration, your logging infrastructure, everything. Zero additional infrastructure overhead. That is a massive deal for teams that do not want to introduce Camunda or Activity or any other Java-based BPM platform into a .NET ecosystem. You get enterprise-grade workflow orchestration without ever leaving the comfort of your CSharpDev codebase. The engine manages states, transitions, conditions, timers, and history, all the hard parts of process management, so you can focus on what makes your application unique. Here is where things get genuinely interesting for teams that have both developers and business analysts. OptimaJet ships with a drag-and-drop visual designer, a browser-based canvas where you can model every state your document or entity can be in, every transition that moves it from one state to another, and every condition that gates those transitions. A business analyst can sit down and draw out a document approval flow, draft, under review, approved, rejected, without writing a single line of code. They define the shape of the process. Then, on the developer side, you bind real sealers actions and triggers to those transitions. You write a method, you decorate it or register it with the engine, and suddenly that visual box on the canvas executes your production code. This separation of concerns is powerful. Your business stakeholders can iterate on the process logic visually, and your developers stay focused on the implementation details. The designer is not a toy. It produces a real workflow schema that gets persisted and versioned, and you can update it at runtime without redeploying your application. Now let's talk about the part that often makes or breaks a library decision in a professional environment: database support. OptimaJet WorkflowEngine ships with out-of-the-box providers for PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, SQLite, Oracle, and even MongoDB. Whatever your existing stack looks like, there is a provider ready to go. This is not an afterthought. The persistence layer is a first-class citizen in the engine's architecture. Workflow schemas, process instances, transition history, timer state, all of it is stored and queried through your chosen database provider with optimized schemas designed for production workloads. And because we are running on .NET 8, you get the full benefit of modern performance improvements, better memory allocation, faster JSON handling, improved async throughput. The library has been updated to take advantage of these runtime gains, which means your workflow-heavy endpoints will perform significantly better compared to older .NET Framework or even .NET Core 3.1 implementations. If you are running a greenfield project or migrating a legacy system, this engine slots in cleanly. Let's make this concrete. Where would you actually reach for OptimaJet WorkflowEngine? Document approval processes are the classic example. Invoices moving through finance approval chains, contracts going through legal review, purchase orders requiring multi-level sign-off. But the use cases go much further than documents. Think about order fulfillment pipelines in e-commerce, where an order transitions through placed, payment confirmed, warehouse picked, shipped, delivered, and potentially returned. Think about onboarding workflows for HR systems, where a new employee triggers a sequence of tasks across IT provisioning, payroll setup, and manager assignment, all in parallel, all trackable. Think about support ticket escalation logic, where tickets automatically escalate based on SLA timers you configure right inside the workflow designer. Anytime you have an entity in your system that moves through well-defined states based on human actions, system events, or time-based triggers, that is a workflow. And that is where this engine earns its place in your architecture. That is the big picture of what OptimaJet WorkflowEngine is and why it matters for .NET 8 developers and architects. In Episode 2, we are going hands-on. We will install the NuGet package, configure it in a fresh ASP.NET Core 8 project, hook it up to PostgreSQL, and run our very first workflow process end-to-end. You do not want to miss that one. Hit subscribe so you get notified the moment it drops. And here is my challenge for you right now. Drop a comment below and tell me, what business process are you trying to automate in your current project? Document approvals? Order pipelines? Something more complex? I read every single comment, and your answer might shape the examples we build later in this series. Episode 2 is dropping this week. See you there.